Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. Coordinates, 13 degrees 15 and 61 degrees 12 W, 13.250 degrees north 61.200 degrees west, 13.250, minus 61.200. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, / ɛ́grɛnə́ꞌdiːnz/ listen, is an Anglo-Caribbean country in the Lesser Antilles island arc, in the southern portion of the Windward Islands, which lies in the West Indies at the southern end of the eastern border of the Caribbean Sea where the latter meets the Atlantic Ocean. The sovereign state is also frequently known simply as Saint Vincent. Its 389 square kilometers, 150 square miles, territory consists of the main island of Saint Vincent and the northern two-thirds of the Grenadines, a chain of 32 smaller islands. Some of the Grenadines are inhabited: Bequia, Mustique, Union Island, Kingstown, Palm Island, Mayro, Young Island, whilst others are not: Tobago Keys, Petit Saint Vincent, Balasso, Betawia, Ketra, Petite Mustique, Savin, and Petit Nevis. Most of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines lies within the Hurricane Alley. To the north of Saint Vincent lies Saint Lucia, to the east is Barbados, and Grenada lies to the south. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines is a densely populated country for its size, over 300 inhabitants/km2, with approximately 109,643 inhabitants. Kingstown is the capital and main port. Saint Vincent has a British colonial history, and is now part of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, CARICOM, the Commonwealth of Nations, the Bolivarian Alliance for the Americas, and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC. Etymology: Christopher Columbus, the first European to discover the island, named it after Saint Vincent of Saragossa, whose feast day it was on the day he first saw it, January 22, 1498. History: Pre-colonial period. Before the arrival of Europeans and Africans in the 16th century, various Amerindian groups passed through or settled on Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, including the Siboney, Arawak, and Carib people. The island now known as Saint Vincent was originally named Illuminated by the native island Caribs, who called themselves Kalina/Karina, L and R being pronounced the same in their language. European arrival and early colonial period. It is thought that Christopher Columbus sighted the island in 1498, giving it the name Saint Vincent. The Caribs aggressively prevented European settlement on Saint Vincent until 1719. In the meantime, a mixed African-Carib community had developed. As escaped or shipwrecked African slaves ended up on the island, they became known as the Black Caribs or Garifuna. French and British colonization and the First Carib War. Various attempts by the English and Dutch to claim the island proved unsuccessful, and it was the French who were first able to colonize the island, settling in the town of Broali on the leeward side of Saint Vincent in 1719. The French brought with them enslaved African prisoners of war to work the plantations of sugar, coffee, indigo, tobacco, cotton and cocoa. The British captured the island and drove out the French from Broali during the 7 Years' War, a claim confirmed with the Treaty of Paris, 1763. On taking control of the island in 1763, the British laid the foundations of Fort Charlotte and also brought with them enslaved African prisoners of war to work on the island plantations. The Caribs, however, opposed to the British presence, went into open conflict against the British, starting the First Carib War, which lasted from 1772 to 1773. During the Anglo-French War, 1778 to 1783, the French recaptured Saint Vincent in 1779. However, the British regained control under the Treaty of Versailles, 1783. British colonial period in the Second Carib War. The uneasy peace between the British and the Caribs led to the Second Carib War, which lasted from 1795 to 1796. The Caribs were led by Garifuna paramount chief Joseph Chetoyer, and they were supported by the French, notably the radical Victor Hughes from the island of Martinique. Their revolt and uprising was eventually put to an end in 1797 by British General Sir Ralph Abercrombie. A peace treaty agreement was made which resulted in almost 5,000 Black Caribs being exiled to Roatan, an island off the coast of Honduras, and to Balasso in the Grenadines. In 1806 the building of Fort Charlotte was completed. The La Soufriere volcano erupted in 1812, resulting in considerable destruction. The British abolished slavery in Saint Vincent, as well as in the other British West Indies colonies, in 1834, and an apprenticeship period followed which ended in 1838. After its end, labor shortages on the plantations resulted, and this was initially addressed by the immigration of indentured servants. In the late 1840s, many Portuguese immigrants arrived from Madeira, and between 1861 and 1888 shiploads of Indian laborers arrived. Conditions remained harsh for both former slaves and immigrant agricultural workers, as depressed world sugar prices kept the economy stagnant until the turn of the century. The economy then went into a period of decline, with many landowners abandoning their estates and leaving the land to be cultivated by liberated slaves. The Opobo King Yahya of Nigeria was exiled to Saint Vincent after his 1887 arrest by the British for shipping cargoes of palm oil directly to Liverpool without the intermediation of the National African Company. 20th century. In 1902, La Soufriere volcano erupted, killing 1,500 to 2,000 people, much farmland was damaged, and the economy deteriorated. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines passed through various stages of colonial status under the British. A representative assembly was authorized in 1776, Crown Colony government was installed in 1877, a legislative council was created in 1925 with a limited franchise, and universal adult suffrage was granted in 1951. During the period of its control of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, Britain made several attempts to unify the island with other Windward Islands as a single entity, with the aim of simplifying British control in the Anglo-Caribbean region through a single unified administration. In the 1960s, the British again tried to unify all of its regional islands including Saint Vincent into one united single entity under British control, unified politically. The unification was to be called the West Indies Federation and was driven by a desire to gain independence from British government. However, the attempt collapsed in 1962. Saint Vincent was granted associate statehood status by Britain on October 27, 1969. This gave Saint Vincent complete control over its own internal affairs but was short of full independence in law. In April 1979, La Soufriere volcano erupted again. Although no one was killed, thousands were evacuated and again there was extensive agricultural damage. On October 27, 1979, Saint Vincent and the Grenadines became the last of the Windward Islands to gain full independence. The country opted to remain within the British Commonwealth, retaining Queen Elizabeth as monarch, represented locally by a Governor-General. Post-independence era. Milton Cato of the centre-left Saint Vincent Labour Party, SVLP, was the country's first prime minister. He had been premier since 1974, ruling until he was defeated in the 1984 Vincentian general election by James Fitz-Alan Mitchell of the centre-right New Democratic Party, NDP. During Cato's time in office there was a brief rebellion on Union Island in December 1979 led by Lennox Bumba Charles, apparently inspired by the recent revolution on Grenada. Charles alleged neglect of Union by the central government. However, the revolt was swiftly put down and Charles arrested. There were also a series of strikes in the early 1980s. James Mitchell remained prime minister for 16 years until 2000, winning 3 consecutive elections. Mitchell was at the forefront of attempts to improve regional integration. In 1980 and 1987 hurricanes damaged many banana and coconut plantations. Hurricane seasons were also very active in 1998 and 1999, with Hurricane Lenny in 1999 causing extensive damage to the west coast of the island. In 2000 Arnhem Eustace became prime minister after taking over the leadership of the NDP following Mitchell's retirement. He was defeated a year later by Ralph Gonsalves of the Unity Labour Party, the successor party to the SVLP. Gonsalves, known as Comrade Ralph due to his left-wing views, has criticized U.S. policy against Venezuela and Cuba, and argued that European nations owe Caribbean nations reparations for their role in the Atlantic slave trade. On November 25, 2009, voters were asked to approve a new constitution in a referendum. The new constitution proposed to make the country a republic, replacing Queen Elizabeth II as head of state with a non-executive president, a proposal supported by Prime Minister Gonsalves. A two-thirds majority was required, and it was defeated by 29,019 votes, 55.64%, to 22,493, 43.13%. Geography: Saint Vincent and the Grenadines lies to the west of Barbados, south of St. Lucia and north of Grenada in the Windward Islands of the Lesser Antilles, an island arc of the Caribbean Sea. The islands of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines include the main island of Saint Vincent 344 square kilometers, 133 square miles, and the northern two-thirds of the Grenadines 45 square kilometers, 17 square miles, which are a chain of smaller islands stretching south from Saint Vincent to Grenada. There are 32 islands and keys that make up Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, SVG. 9 are inhabited, including the mainland Saint Vincent and the Grenadines Islands, Young Island, Bequia, Mustique, Canoeuin, Union Island, Mayro, Petit Saint Vincent, and Palm Island. Prominent uninhabited islands of the Grenadines include Petit Nevis, used by whalers, and Petit Mustique, which was the center of a prominent real estate scam in the early 1990s. The capital of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines is Kingstown, Saint Vincent. The main island of Saint Vincent measures 26 kilometers, 16 miles, long, 15 kilometers, 9.3 miles, in width and 344 square kilometers, 133 square miles, in area. From the most northern to the most southern points, the Grenadine Islands belonging to Saint Vincent span 60.4 kilometers, 37.5 miles, with a combined area of 45 square kilometers, 17 square miles. The island of Saint Vincent is volcanic and heavily forested, and includes little level ground. The windward side of the island is very rocky and steep, while the leeward side has more sandy beaches and bays. Saint Vincent's highest peak is La Soufriere volcano at 1,234 meters, 4,049 feet. Other major mountains on Saint Vincent are, from north to south, Richmond Peak, Mount Brisbane, Kernery Mountain, Grand Bonhomme, Petit Bonhomme and Mount St. Andrew. Government and politics. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines is a parliamentary democracy and constitutional monarchy, with Elizabeth II as Queen of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. She does not reside in the islands and is represented in the country by the Governor-General of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, currently Sir Frederick Ballantyne. The office of Governor-General has mostly ceremonial functions including the opening of the island's House of Assembly and the appointment of various government officials. Control of the government rests with the elected Prime Minister and his or her cabinet. The current Prime Minister is Ralph Gonsalves, elected in 2001 as head of the Unity Labour Party. The legislative branch of government is the unicameral House of Assembly of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, seating 15 elected members representing single-member constituencies and 6 appointed members known as senators. The parliamentary term of office is 5 years, although the Prime Minister may call elections at any time. The judicial branch of government is divided into district courts, the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court and the Privy Council in London being the court of last resort. Political culture. The 2 political parties with parliamentary representation are the New Democratic Party, NDP, and the Unity Labour Party, ULP. The parliamentary opposition is made up of the largest minority stakeholder in the general elections, headed by the leader of the opposition. The current opposition leader is Dr. Godwin Friday. Military. Saint Vincent has no formal armed forces, although the Royal Saint Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force includes a special service unit as well as a militia that has a supporting role on the island. In 2017, Saint Vincent signed the UN Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Administrative divisions. Administratively, Saint Vincent and the Grenadines is divided into 6 parishes. 5 parishes are on Saint Vincent, while the 6th is made up of the Grenadine Islands. Kingstown is located in the parish of St. George and is the capital city and central administrative center of the country. LGBT rights. Homosexuality is illegal in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Section 148 of the Criminal Code states that any person, who in public or private, commits an act of gross indecency with another person of the same sex, or procures or attempts to procure another person of the same sex to commit an act of gross indecency with him or her, is guilty of an offense and liable to imprisonment for 5 years. Foreign relations. International and regional relationships. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines maintains close ties to the US, Canada, and the United Kingdom, and cooperates with regional political and economic organizations such as the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, and CARICOM. The island nation's 6th embassy overseas was opened on August 8, 2019 in Taipei, after Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves' official visit to the Republic of China. The other 5 are located in London, Washington, D.C., Havana, Caracas, and Brussels. The double taxation relief, CARICOM Treaty. On July 6, 1994 at Sherborne Conference Centre, St. Michael, Barbados, as a representative of the government of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, then, James Mitchell, who was subsequently knighted, signed the Double Taxation Relief, CARICOM, treaties. There were 7 other signatories to the agreement on that day. The countries which were represented were Antigua and Barbuda, Belize, Grenada, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and Trinidad and Tobago. An 8th country signed the agreement on August 19, 2016, Guyana. This treaty covered taxes, residence, tax jurisdictions, capital gains, business profits, interest, dividends, royalties and other areas. FATCA. On June 30, 2014, Saint Vincent and the Grenadines signed a Model 1 agreement with the United States of America with respect to Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, or FATCA. According to the updated site as of January 16, 2017, on May 13, 2016 the agreement went to enforced status. International and regional bodies to which Saint Vincent and the Grenadines belong. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines is a member of the United Nations, the Commonwealth of Nations, the Organization of American States, and the Association of Caribbean States, ACS. In September 2017, at the 72nd session of the UN General Assembly, the Prime Ministers of the Solomon Islands, Tuvalu, Vanuatu and Saint Vincent and the Grenadines called for UN action on alleged human rights abuses committed on Western New Guinea's indigenous Papuans. Western New Guinea has been occupied by Indonesia since 1963. More than 100,000 Papuans have died during a 50-year Papua conflict. Organization of American States. The Charter of the OASH was signed in Bogotá in 1948 and was amended by several protocols which were named after the city and the year in which the protocol was signed, such as Managua in 1993 forming part of the name of the protocol. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines entered the OASH system on October 27, 1981 according to the OASH website. Summits of the Americas. The last Summits of the Americas, the 7th, was held in Panama City, Panama in 2015 with the 8th summit being held in Lima, Peru in 2018 according to the website of the Summits of Americas. Indigenous Leaders Summits of Americas, ILSA. With Saint Vincent and the Grenadines having at least 2 groups of indigenous persons, it is expected that there will be contributions from the SVGs on this topic at the next ILSAs. The position of the OASH with respect to indigenous persons appears to be developing over the years. The following statements appear to capture the position of the OASH with respect to the ILSA. The OASH has supported and participated in the Organization of Indigenous Leaders Summits of Americas, ILSA, according to the OASH's website. The most recent statement made by the heads of state of the hemisphere was in the Declaration of Commitments of Port of Spain in 2009, paragraph 86 according to the OASH's website. The draft American Declaration of the Rights of the Indigenous Persons appear to be a working document. The last meeting for negotiations and the quest for consensus on this area appear to be meeting number 18 and is listed as being held in May 2015 according to the website. European nations. In 2013, Saint Vincent called for European nations to pay reparations for the slave trade. Venezuela. Saint Vincent protests Venezuela's claim to give full effect to eighths, Bird Island, which creates a Venezuelan-continental shelf extending over a large portion of the Caribbean Sea. Economy. Agriculture, dominated by banana production, is the most important sector of this lower middle-income economy. The services sector, based mostly on a growing tourist industry, is also important. The government has been relatively unsuccessful at introducing new industries, and the unemployment rate remains high at 19.8% in the 1991 census to 15% in 2001. The continuing dependence on a single crop represents the biggest obstacle to the island's development as tropical storms wiped out substantial portions of bananas in many years. There is a small manufacturing sector and a small offshore financial sector serving international businesses whose particularly restrictive secrecy laws have caused some international concern. There are increasing demands for international financial services like stock exchange and financial intermediaries' financial activities in the country. In addition, the natives of Bequia are permitted to hunt up to 4 humpback whales per year under IWC subsistence quotas. Tourism. The tourism sector has considerable potential for development. The recent filming of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies on the island has helped to expose the country to more potential visitors and investors. Recent growth has been stimulated by strong activity in the construction sector and an improvement in tourism. Transportation. Argyle International Airport is the country's new international airport. The new facility opened on February 14, 2017, replacing the existing E.T. Joshua Airport. The airport is on the island's east coast about 5.17 miles from Kingstown. Communications. In 2010, Saint Vincent and the Grenadines had 21,700 telephone landlines. Its land telephone system is fully automatic and covers the entire island and all of the inhabited Grenadine Islands. In 2002, there were 10,000 mobile phones. By 2010, this number had increased to 131,800. Mobile phone service is available in most areas of Saint Vincent as well as the Grenadines. Saint Vincent has two ISPs, Digicel, Flow, that provides cellular telephone and internet service. Demographics. The population as estimated in 2016 was 109,643. The ethnic composition was 66% African descent, 19% of mixed descent, 6% East Indian, 4% Europeans, mainly Portuguese, 2% Island Carib and 3% others. Most Vincentians are the descendants of African people brought to the island to work on plantations. There are other ethnic groups such as Portuguese, from Madeira, and East Indians, both brought into work on the plantations after the abolishing of slavery by the British living on the island. There is also a growing Chinese population. Languages. English is the official language. Most Vincentians speak Vincentian Creole. English is used in education, government, religion, and other formal domains, while Creole, or dialect as it is referred to locally, is used in informal situations such as in the home and among friends. Religion. According to the 2001 census, 81.5% of the population of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines identified themselves as Christian, 6.7% has another religion and 8.8% has no religion or did not state a religion, 1.5%. Anglicanism constitutes the largest religious category, with 17.8% of the population. Pentecostals are the second largest group, 17.6%. The next largest group are Methodists, 10.9% of the population, followed by Seventh-day Adventists, 10.2%, and Baptists, 10.0%. Other Christians include Jehovah's Witnesses, 0.6%, Roman Catholics, 7.5%, Evangelicals, 2.8%, Church of God, 2.5%, Brethren Christian, 1.3%, and the Salvation Army, 0.3%. Between 1991 and 2001 the number of Anglicans, Brethren, Methodists and Roman Catholics decreased, while the number of Pentecostals, Evangelicals and Seventh-day Adventists increased. The number of non-Christians is small. These religious groups include the Rastafarians, 1.5% of the population, Hindus and Muslims. Culture. Sport. Cricket, rugby and association football are most popular among men whereas netball is most popular among women. Basketball, volleyball and tennis are also very popular. The country's prime football league is the NLA Premier League, which provides its national, association, football team with most players. A notable Vincentian footballer is Ezra Hendrickson, former national team captain who played at several Major League Soccer clubs in the United States and is now an assistant coach with the Seattle Sounders FC. The country regularly participates at the Caribbean Basketball Championship where a men's team and a women's team compete. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines also has its own national rugby union team which is ranked 84th in the world. Other notable sports played at the regional level include track and field. Music. Music popular in Saint Vincent and the Grenadines includes big drum, calypso, soca, chutney, steel band and reggae. String band music, quadrille and ballet music and traditional storytelling are also popular. One of the most successful Saint Vincent natives is Kevin Little. He was named Cultural Ambassador for the island September 19, 2013. The national anthem of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines is Saint Vincent, Land So Beautiful, adopted upon independence in 1979. Media. Saint Vincent has 12 FM radio stations including 88.9 Adoration FM, 89.1 Gen Radio, 89.7 NBC Radio, 95.7 and 105.7 Praise FM, 96.7 Nice Radio, 97.1 Hot 97, 98.3 Star FM, 99.9 We FM, 103.7 Hits, 102.7 Easy Radio, 104.3 Extreme FM and 106.9 Boom FM. Several internet radio stations including Chronicles Christian Radio. It has one television broadcast station ZBG-TV, SVG-TV, and one cable television provider. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines Broadcasting Cooperation is the parent company for SVG-TV, Magic 103.7 ETV, Magic 103.7 ETV, Magic 103.7 ETV, Magic